The lights flickered, the brakes screamed, and we coasted into a darkness so complete it felt like a decision. We were between stations close enough to taste the next platform's electricity, far enough to know we didn't own it. Emergency strips along the car winked on in thin amber, turning faces into old photographs. Outside the windows, the tunnel wall returned nothing until a cone of maintenance light found a patch of concrete and made a stage. In that stage stood a tall, thin silhouette, no face, no motion, all attention. The intercom coughed, died, and began to breathe. In 2 counts out, 3 not static, not feedback breath. Measured the way a conductor counts silence. Someone behind me whispered, "It's not human." The words had the shape of a prayer that had given up, being brave. I raised my phone like an idiot. 2003 made us all optimists about cameras and filmed black. The timer ticked 007, 008, 009 duplicate sekundan. The screen stayed a perfect mouthless night. The ceiling clocked over the door, wrote 1207, flickered, and wrote 1207 again, as if the minute had lost its courage. The figure tilted not a human cock of the head, not curiosity, a precise inclination, as if Lissingen kept watching. I take the Lex and the Bleecker transfer 5 nights a week. I'm an assistant editor, which means I stay late, arguing with commas and learning the private lives of headlines. I'm 30, caffeinated, practical, the kind of person who counts tiles to stop the heart from making its own myths. New York teaches you a noise vocabulary wheel flaps, boogie squeal, brake dust in your teeth, the soft nobility of the third rail humming under everything. None of it sounds like breathing coming from the PA. That week had been a series of small forewarnings, a brownout between these same stations that made the ads blink in reverse order. A platform dog that refused to look at the tunnel mouth, pinning its eyes to a trash can instead. The chime that announces the doors playing backward like ding-dong, with the vowels reversed. A scrolling car ad that glitched on one word not until the screen remembered it had other obligations. I'd promised myself that if we ever stopped between stations, I wouldn't be the kind of passenger who narrates loudly. I broke that promise quietly. I stood, because sitting makes you a witness and standing makes you a participant, and walked to the window opposite the silhouette. The glass held a faint mist on the inside, which felt like a lie because the heat was off and the car had grown cool enough for everyone's breath to behave. Next to me, a guy in a Mets cap muttered, "Maintenance crew." The figure didn't wear orange, didn't wear a helmet, didn't carry posture. It wore stillness like a uniform. "Attention passengers," the intercom said in my voice. Not my tone, not my acting my voice, wearing its words wrong, half a beat late. "We are experiencing breath in, breath out, a short delay, breath, please remain, breath.com. I didn't say those words, I thought them. The intercom returned them with the timing of someone who had recently learned English from a metronome. The figure tilted again. The amber lights hummed in a way that made the floor a drum. I pressed my palm to the window and felt no vibration from the wall, like the tunnel had unplugged itself. A teenage kid further down the car knocked twice against the glass with the flat of his hand. The intercom answered with 2 metallic taps, bright and small, the sound a chrome pole makes when a wedding ring says hello. The pole didn't move. The sound came from the ceiling. "Is that a person?" Metcalf asked, and the woman behind Usof's coat, soft voice gave us the sentence the night had been preparing all week. "It is not human." The figure stood in the puddle of tunnel light, like Tom had pointed at that circle and said, "You live here now." It was tall, the way scaffolding's tall, linear, uninterested in your approval. The shoulders were wrong, too narrow to sell a torso you could convince yourself of. The head was a long ellipse, and every movie in my body prepared my hands to be useful and found nothing to hold. I tried the phone again, because hope is a habit. The screen recorded sound and dark, and the timer hung on 008, a second Chime. As if the minute wanted custody over certain moments, I pushed the phone against the glass to let it steal what it could from the tunnel light. It swore it didn't know how. The PA exhaled and started naming the car. Door pole seat man woman window in my voice, with space between the words like the car had become a kindergarten for a mouth that loved nouns. It said my name next, cleanly, and I felt the tilt without looking. In the amber reflection, I watched 3 other passengers enact the same small religion. They drifted toward the window, slowed, breathed, shallow, and widened their eyes because that S, how you teach your brain, there S more light than there is. This figure did not take a step. It came closer anyway. The halo of light around it grew narrower, like the air had learned edges. Emergency brake? Metzcap asked. And a nurse near the door said no, with the professionalism of someone who knows what happens to trains when amateurs pull cords. We stood in a democracy of watching. Out of habit, I checked the third rail gap. No light crawled along the ties. No rats sprinted. The tunnel had the texture of a paused tape. The car's wheel flats cooled in peace. The intercom took a breath and tried humor. In my voice, we apologized for the inconvenience. The car complied by inventing a collective flinch. The figure raised no hand, made no threat. It listened. Its tilt had a precision that reminded me of a tuner finding a pitch. If it had ice, they were the kind that don't confess to being ice. I thought about my sister, because fear pulls the family tree down from the attic when it can't find the flashlight. The PA said her name soft, careful, 2 separated syllables, like the city had hired an elevator to do a human job. The woman behind me said, "Don't think of names." We obeyed for as long as humans can obey their own advice 3 seconds. I looked up at the clock because I needed a stupid number to give me permission to breathe normally again. It wrote 12:07. The second ticked. It wrote 12:07 again, like it was protecting a memory. It didn't want to surrender. Somebody at the far end hit the intercom button and shouted, "Hey, we've got a person on the tracks." The intercom replayed, "Hey," in my voice. Then, half a beat later, "We've got person tracks," like a language student who knows words but has a grudge against order. The yellin' man backed away from the button as if it had learned teeth. The conductor S window on the neighboring car slid open a finger S width and then stopped. We saw eyes ordinaire, more to look out, glimpse our window, our figure, and then shut. The little gooseneck light over his controls glowed like a secret he wished he didn't own. As sound traveled the length of the train brakes, recharging, the compressor doing a job end. For a moment, everyone practiced hope. The house lights, thought about coming back, dimmed, tried again, settled on amber with a sigh. The PA breathed those same 7 seconds and let the carrier drop like a coin into a slot you can retrieve. A man with a mini DV camcorder 2003 means we still believed in tape hit record and pointed right at the figure. The camcorder's tally light burned red like a promise. He watched his flip-out LCD and it gave him pure black. He swore in a well-bred way, rewound 5 seconds, replayed, black, fast-forwarded, black. He panned to the ad panel above us, and the ad behaved like ads do. Shampoo, smiles, 2 white teeth. He panned back to the figure below. The tally light winked 08 twice on the counter and kept right on, being confident. "You're filming a hole," the nurse said, and then looked like she wished that sentence could reassemble into something less brave. We were not alone in the car, but alone is what you are when rooms refuse to be rooms. Someone started crying. Not hysteria, quiet, regret. The sort of crying that belongs to teeth and the part of the brain that counts the exits. I try to count down 10, 9, 8 because numbers are unarmed men who still stand up. At 7, the PA inhaled. At 8, the PA borrowed my voice and said 8 with half a beat of mercy. It did not say 9. I didn't either. The figure was closer. Not steps, not slides. Its distance agreed to be less. The halo S edge drew a semicircle so clean, I wanted to apologize to geometry for every CID ever earned. The glass didn't fog where the figure would have breathed. The light didn't bend where a person would bend it. The shadow did not understand where to fall. It preferred not to. The PA tried another sentence it had stolen from somewhere in me. "Please do not run," it said it to the car. It said it to the name I had just banned. It said it to the part of the world that had decided we could have a lesson without an explanation. A sound like a small bell to notes down up came from the overhead panel. We all looked up because humans obey bells. When we looked back, the figure did a final tilt the kind a person gives a radio. When it finally finds the station end, then the tunnel light thinned as if the air had remembered a chore and wanted to get to it. The ember in our car warmed a degree. The PA said nothing. The clock blinked and allowed itself to write 12:08. We did the mechanical things we needed to do to become a train again. The compressor found its humor. The conductor's window opened to a human amount. A man with a voice like a colander said, "We're experiencing a temporary signal issue," which translated to the world, got ahead of us, and we're catching up. No one cheered. We accepted. The train crawled. The wheels lied that they had never made scream. The ads found their brands. The PA tested a real announcement and sounded like a tin can in a friendly neighborhood. We slid into the platform as if the station had invented us. Any cop movie would have told you to look for police. There were none. Just commuters whose faces said, late, hungry, home. When the doors opened, the nurse touched my arm and said, "You should throw that phone out." I nodded and didn't. I watched the camcorder man set his tape aside like a wet book and then pick it up and hold it to his chest like a proof someone would one day let him keep. Metzcap took his hat off and looked into it like he'd promised it answers. The woman who had said it as not human walked a straight line to the nearest trash can, stared into it, and then kept walking. A tunnel worker on the platform held a flashlight and did not point it at the tunnel. I got off where I always get off and avoided looking into the dark between cars because you only need to be brave enough to get home, not brave enough for more. That night, 12:07, on my microwave the phone lit by itself. Incoming unknown. I answered out of the kind of habit that feeds monsters. 7 seconds of open line, measured breath, and a soft tap like a ring against a chrome pole. Then nothing. I played my video. It revealed darkened track noise and on the audio, me saying it's fine. It's fine. It's fine in a way that didn't he convince any of the three of us. The counter shows 08 twice. The EXIF says the 19th of November, 2003, 0 hours, 7 minutes and 58 seconds for 2 frames in a row. The file won't delete. I have tried. New York has taught me what can't means. For a week, between the same stations, the door chime played down up before up down, as if we had agreed to speak backward to be polite. For a month, the platform dogs refused the tunnel mouth eyes on the trash cans, as before. For a year, any time someone whispered, I kept my hand on the pole and tried not to think names. I still take the subway late. The city gets smaller, if you let fear buy it. When we pass that stretch, the ads sometimes flicker, not like a blessing. I count the seconds between stations because numbers are friends with boundaries. At 12:07, I try not to look at clocks. If the intercom takes a breath, I practice my most loyal form of faith. I do not think of names. If any of this sounds like the shape of your nightlight's flicker, brakes. Scream a car goes dark between stations. The PA learns to breathe and borrow your voice. A tall silhouette stands under tunnel light and tilts like it's listening. Your phone films black and your timer duplicates a second. Leave me one word. So I know that train wasn't only mine. No lines. No station names. No coordinates wearing real estate. Just Nothaman. I read them when the car turns amber and the city holds its breath to practice being a planet. I go home and wash brake dust out of my hair and try not to baptize it with new nouns. The world has enough names and too few verbs. Here are the only ones I trust. Listen. Don't run. Don't think names. We're between stations more than we admit. Sometimes the light moves first. Sometimes something stands in it and waits for you to hear your own voice. When that happens, don't give it more language than you have to. The train will remember how to be a train, and you will remember how to be passenger enough